Starting. Hi, everybody. This is Greg with the Dice Must Flow. Today I have Mark with me, son of Sigmar and Son. And special guest today is Vince Venturella from Warhammer Weekly. And we are going to get to talking about some Tomb Kings, the Desert Legions. And there were some changes between General Handbook and General Handbook 2017. And when I was looking out online a lot, really there was not a lot of discussion. Most discussions about Tomb Kings were pre-General Handbook 2017. So we thought we'd go into, there's still a lot of good units in this army. And we thought we'd dig into that a little bit. So,
absolutely, man. It's good to be here. I'm excited about it.
Thank you. I know Vince, he's the expert at doing this stuff. So you can keep us on our straight and narrow. And we're really excited to hear what you have to say about the Tomb Kings and the show in general to help us. Thanks for helping us get going on it. So
hey, happy to be here.
We just kind of to start off with what's going on. We today, I guess, Saturday, May 5th, 2018, we have going through the news. Mark, do you want to talk about what was, I guess we got more
Deepkin?
More Deepkin.
Yeah. So this week, I guess today, you got the 3 heroes that came out. And then I know after this, I'm going up to the Warhammer shop right after this, and I'm going to put in my pre-order for the turtle.
Yeah.
And then I believe next week the shark comes out, and then the eels.
Yeah, I haven't really heard the details on that. Yeah, so the Soul Scryer, the Soul Render, and the Tidecaster come out today. And then the Achillean Leviathan, or the turtle, is pre-order as of today. I guess the other news, Warhammer Legends was announced. I guess they're available for pre-order now for a period of 1 week. And these are the Dark Elves. I don't know, Vince, what do you think about this this whole Legends thing and the pre-order? I think it's great that they're letting people get the models that are out of print.
Yeah, I mean, anything that sort of takes away the power of the secondhand market and scalpers, or whatever you want to call it, from resellers from just charging overinflated prices on some of these things is generally good. A lot of these are the old metal ones, or fine cast, so they use a different type of mold. It's not as expensive to respin up a run of these as it would be for something plastic. Like if you know how molds are made, like having a kit in plastic is actually extremely expensive because of the nature of the mold that makes it. These are silicone molds is what you pour, metal models in. And so they're actually pretty cheap to make. So I think it's cool. The biggest complaint has been there's not points for them or whatever. I feel that that's the right choice. I know that's probably an unpopular opinion, but the second there are points for these, they can show up in every event ever, and they have to worry about balancing a huge number of figures. And if you really want to see them do this with all of the armies, and you have any concern whatsoever for balance, you should probably not want them to put points on these because it would be a titanic effort to keep every old crazy special character and figure in rules that felt appropriate to them and yet completely fairly pointed. Right?
Yeah, right.
I've actually never thought of that. That's a good point.
Like there's only so much you can keep in balance. Every new game element you add in disrupts balance, right? Every new model, every new unit, every new army disrupts balance because they could have something that's slightly out beyond the pale, or when put in a combination with something else, or whatever, right? It just creates more chances for outliers. Skew and brokenness happens by the assembling of outliers. Outliers happen when you make too much stuff. So unfortunately, though I would love it if they had points, I really would. And we're going to talk about why at some point today I mentioned that I don't ever want to see the Tomb Kings go into this lot. I don't. Let it all be dead. As far as like that stuff goes, dead models. Like I don't need a new scroll called Cetra. I don't need to bring back any lost models. They can all be gone, and that's fine because I get to keep my points forever. Let me keep my compendium points for the rest of time, so I have a functional army, and I'm good to go.
That's my biggest fear is that these Tomb Kings will that they'll somehow basically say the points on them are no longer valid or something, or they've we'll come out with a new Cetra rule. There's really no reason for that, but we can get into that a little bit about the difference there. So one of the things I thought I'd talk about was, well, I guess I'm a Games Workshop fanboy, so much so that I bought the company. No, joke about that, but I do have Games Workshop stock, and so I don't know if people know that basically that stock over the past 52 weeks is up 162%. So not only do us as the fans appreciate what they've been doing, the market has been appreciating what they've been doing. And probably as a direct result of people like us liking what they've done and increasing their sales. So that, I guess, just real quick, that their stock in the U.S. is at over the counter 33.4, but it's down $1.55 for the year. But there was an article in the Financial Times, and it says Games Workshop, the retailer known for its miniature figurines of fantasy characters set on Friday, is expecting profits for the year to be slightly above expectations. In a trading update, the group said strong sales and growth in the quarter to April 30th would push profits for the 2017-2018 financial year higher than anticipated. Consistent revenue and profit growth has been more than just a fantasy for this maker of tabletop games in the recent months. So I thought that was interesting news. I guess you guys can let me know on our weekly show. I can give you a weekly stock quote for Games Workshop.
The slowest stock ticker update in history.
That's right. But yeah, anyway, that's pretty interesting article. And then actually, if you go out and research Games Workshop, there are some pretty interesting articles about their rate of growth and stuff. And I think all that does really go into the changes that they've made up top with working with their customers. And I know, like at Adepticon, when they announced the Plastic Sisters, I mean, that's just the absolute example of how they're really going to work with what people want, as opposed to giving them what they quote unquote need.
Yeah, it was amazing to me that it's taken this long. I mean, I've been waiting on them for Plastic Sisters for something like 20 years, and the announcement from Adepticon could have been Games Workshop finally realizes they own a money-making machine and have decided to turn it on and start printing money. Yep.
Right.
Like, I just, like, there is no other group like the Sisters of Battle fans who have remained hopeful and faithful and were so committed to it, who have spent exorbitant amounts of money on old school, honestly, not that good medals. They should have been able to read this in the tea leaves, but hey, if it was the survey that pushed them over the edge and they finally realized it, good on them. They're going to be getting a mortgage payment from me for it. So look forward to it.
And eBay maybe their stock will take a hit. So I guess next, real quick, what we have been working on. I know Mark has been working on the what is the
Eidolon of Mathlin?
Yeah, the Eidolon
Aquaman.
I have a better picture here. You guys can see of the cape that Mark has done. And
yeah, he's looking good. Wave bro, looking good.
Aquaman.
All airbrush work. I've been working on stuff that's not near as exciting. I got some. Let's see if I can bring in a little better picture there. Anybody can see it, maybe. Some Chaos Marauders. How about that? Very
there you go. Not the most exciting thing ever, but that's
yeah.
okay.
But I got a whole stack of 40, so I rebuilt them.
Built axes.
Built them with flails. Then decided flails stink in the new rules, so I had to reconvert them back to axes. And I'm working on trying to put together a mortal mortal unit for Nurgle, Rotbringers, and those guys will be with the Glotkin and stuff like that. Hopefully, I could get that for NashCon. I'm not sure. We are going to be going to NashCon.
Excellent. Looking forward to seeing you there. Shout out to David Griffin. It's going to be an amazing tournament. Everybody who is anywhere near Nashville, you should be signing up and going next month.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm debating if I am going to be able to get my guys done, my Deepkin done for that, or if I'm just going to have to play some rats.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, there's nothing wrong ever with playing rats. Let's just.
I know rats are the best.
Exactly. I'm glad to see we're all in agreement of the truth here. So, but that being said, it is good to play an army every so often that isn't the rats, just so you can remind yourself how the rats are the best.
So yeah, or I might be doing the Tomb Kings again. So yeah, with that, basically, I did run Tomb Kings at Adepticon, mostly because that was an army that I had sort of put together. I still had to rebase it and everything, and a lot of work, but a lot of what I had, as I mentioned before, is I had a lot of chaos stuff, and it was really 8th edition when you could kind of put everything together. And
sure.
Now, a lot of what I had didn't really work together well as far as keywords and such.
So what have you been working on, Vince?
Well, a whole lot of stuff, as a matter of fact. Like what I'm doing right now is applying very annoying, stupid, messy glue to this little wooden house, so I can put together a little wooden house. My friends who come over and game with me have been busting my chops about my crappy terrain for a long time. So I have these little MDF buildings here. There you go. Mm-hmm. There's like the bottom of one, and there's a little roof, and so I'm gluing them together so that I will have buildings that don't totally suck, and my friends can shut their stupid mouths.
What is this for, like D&D or something?
No, for our Warhammer table.
Oh, okay.
Do you typically airbrush those?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes, these will be like, I just like having a bunch of different stuff. I've got hills and things like that, but more buildings is always good. Mixes things up, right? Mm-hmm. Keeps it fresh. That's what we're looking for. Lots of different options. I like lots of different options in my terrain. I don't like it to stay. I don't like normal terrain. Let me say that.
Yeah, we have mostly the GW terrain, I think.
And that's good stuff too. Like the Baleful Realm Gates is, I don't know if you guys normally play with those and actually have them like active and stuff on the table.
I have 2 of them. I've played with them active once, so it made the game quite interesting.
It really does. Highly recommend. Shout out to everybody. Like, don't be afraid of it. Get into it. For all you, like, especially if you have an older army that maybe doesn't have a lot of like teleporting type of nonsense.
It can help a lot.
Exactly. It can make it. It really levels the playing field on that kind of nonsense. Because one of the big divisions between a lot of older armies and a lot of newer stuff is that the newer stuff, and I think this is one of the things we'll talk about when we get to Tomb Kings, but the newer stuff often has a lot more mobility options, and that makes it, that really is at the heart of its competitiveness. Well, having a couple Realm Gates on your table means everybody's got a shot at mobility. So there you go.
Yeah. Excellent. So I guess I guess I won't go into my army I ran at Adepticon. So yeah, the Tomb Kings, I guess, kind of overall, just to make sure everybody understands what happened. When Age of Sigmar came out, they basically came out with the War Scrolls Compendium, and not that you can see much of a difference. I actually put this thing together, which was the prints of each of the War Scrolls for the Tomb Kings. And then when General's Handbook 2017 came out, they basically re-released the PDF for that. And so that PDF, there were some significant changes. Some significant changes in points, which we can go into. But overall, the changes, I think, were that basically they, quote unquote, and I say quote unquote, got rid of all named characters. Mm-hmm. And a lot of, I know people might have been upset about that. But actually, that, in retrospect, was kind of great. So, for example, they got rid of it, but they provided a War Scroll that was the same under a different name. So the example is like Cetra, the War Scroll for Cetra. is now a Tomb King on Exalted Chariot, and basically it's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And they got rid of the goofy rules. The if you kneel, you lose or something.
Yes.
But and so that's a very positive thing, because what they did by doing that is letting you pick command traits, because it's no longer a named character, and artifacts.
Yep.
And so that actually boosted the army a lot, I think, or helped. Trying to think of the other things. The other things that were, besides points changes, which we could get to, is that the guys like the War Sphinx, the Necro Sphinx, I guess I should say they got rid of summoning.
Yeah, they got rid of summoning and some of the healing.
And healing, right?
Yeah.
Summoning and healing.
Now, it's important to note they didn't get rid of all of the ability to like restore models in this army or something, right?
Right.
In fact, Tomb Kings are the only army that retains the old school, sort of way that Death used to work pre-Legions of Nagash, right? Where every model just sort of restored based on banners in the units and stuff like that. That's still an incredibly potent ability.
Right.
That I don't think you can undercut at all, especially, you already mentioned chariots, and yeah, I'm on board for that. Like we can dig in on them chariots, but that is a powerhouse combination, like refilling, these ridiculous 5-wound chariots or snakes. Yeah, absolutely. Because it is very reasonable for you to get back 1 or 2 of those things every turn.
Right. Right.
Every hero phase, I should say.
Right. So yeah, but I guess the Necro Sphinx, I kind of think of him as sort of the big loser of the thing, and I guess the catapult. So kind of, let me see if I can open up some of these and share some of the screen here.
Yeah, if just in advance, I can throw you out my losers real fast. You ready? Here we go. Casket of Souls. Garbage, garbage, garbage. This thing has no use now, and it makes me sad. It's a cool model.
It is a sweet model.
It is such a cool model, and it is so utterly worthless. I agree with you on the Necrosphinx. Sadly, the Ushabti, like they're still pretty great on their own. Like as a model, those guys are actually pretty strong. The problem with them is that they don't synergize with anything else in the army anymore, right? Like they lost all of their keywords that allowed the other people to buff them, and that gave them a real hit. Now they're still a strong little independent unit to go run around and do stuff, but they have no real synergies with anybody anymore. And then Khalida, poor Khalida. Khalida will always have my heart, but she is not very good.
That's interesting, because I did take her in her equivalent in the army.
Mm-hmm. How'd she do for you?
Well, actually, and we can dig into that. I guess the archers kind of were the surprise star of the army, if that makes any sense. So I guess, yeah, I'll go ahead and say basically I ran a Tomb King on Exalted Chariot, which is Cetra.
Yep.
And gave him a command trait, Master of the Black Arts, which made him a wizard.
Yep.
Cast Mystic Shield and fail pretty much every game.
I feel your pain on that one.
And the artifact was the Ring of Immortality, and basically under the new rules, if he dies, that I guess he has a what is it, a 66?
Yeah, 66. Because on a 3-up, you come back.
On 3-up, he comes back.
Mm-hmm.
And
without costing reinforcement points.
Yes, that's the big key, is because it's like replace if he dies, before he dies, pull the model. They definitely clarified that doesn't cost points.
Right.
I ran a Tomb Queen, the Lich Priest on a skeleton steed, and a Tomb Herald on a skeleton steed.
Yep.
And then my units were a unit of Necropolis Knights, the Snakes, and for my core units, I had 3 chariots, and then 20 skeleton legionnaires with spears. I had a unit of 30 skeleton archers. And then I had a tomb scorpion, and
Some
kind
filler.
of the points fit well where I had sepulchral stalkers.
Mm-hmm.
And
did you ever kill anything with them?
the stalkers?
They
Yeah.
won him a game once. I watched it.
They won me a game.
Nice. Was it like a late pop up and take an objective, or did they late pop
That's
up and
exactly
actually
what it
kill
was.
someone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, late
Both.
pop-up,
It was both.
killed a unit and took an objective. Yeah.
Nice.
You had to kill the unit to take the objective, because it was like you have to have more models around. So you had to kill something, then he was able to take it.
Right. So they were kind of interesting, and they were always a little threat that was kind of off the board.
Sure.
And so, but yeah, that's what I had. And I guess the star of the game tended to be the archers with Khalida, I guess, and if the what is it, the Lich Priest could cast his spell on them, and so they basically and I'm just looking here, it was righteous smiting, and so that is a Desert Legion's unit within 18 inches. All models are imbued with magical power each time you roll a hit of 6+ for the model in the unit, and it's not necessarily combat phase only. Make an additional hit roll for the same weapon at the target. And so Tomb Kings, I guess there's a lot of keyword synergies really in the army. That's what I noticed, or what I like about them, is there's a lot of buffs that can stack up and really make the army good. So yeah, let me just kind of start with the master of those buffs is the Tomb King on Exalted Chariot. See if I can do a screen share here, if I can figure out how to do that.
Top left, when you bring it up, there'll be a little green
Screen share.
Yep.
And screen 2 share.
He's old, forgive him.
Oh, it's all right.
So yeah, we've got our Tomb King on Exalted Chariot there. So, and then this is the renamed Cetra. So he's quite awesome. Points did go up in to 460, I believe. But yeah, but he definitely, the big thing, I guess, for him is this, his command ability, because his command ability lets, I guess, 2 things, I should say. His command ability is he, in your next combat phase, you can add 1 to hit rolls for all Tomb King units in your army while they're within 18 inches of him. And if a Desert Legions is affected by this ability, you can add 1 to their wound rolls in the combat phase.
Yep.
And so basically you're going to get add 1 to hit and add 1 to wound for pretty much most of your army.
Yep.
Within an 18-inch bubble of him.
This is going to be very relevant when we talk about snakes later.
Right. And the other one is the Crown of the Desert Kingdoms, which lets, when he is your general, basically all of your other heroes, I'm not sure, maybe that's not it. Basically, when Cetra is your general, Tomb King on Exalted Chariot is your general, all of your other heroes still can use their command ability. And that is huge. So like the Tomb King Khalida can use her command ability. Another Tomb King could use his command ability. So you can start stacking these bonuses that they can give.
Yep. It is he has I mean, this is Archeon's ability, right? Like, only for Archeon, it's his actual command ability. Yeah. Archeon, the Grand Marshal of the Apocalypse, uses his command ability and says, okay, now other people go ahead. Cetra just does this, or the Royal Tomb King just does this by default. It's so good. Now it says, a unit can only be affected by any of the individual buffs. Then it lists out the buff names, like, and he did say war, the Blessing of Accuracy, my will be done, and who dares disturb my slumber once per battle round, right? Yeah. Which is fine. I wouldn't, I don't know the situation where I'd need to or care to stack it that far.
Right.
Because the reality is, with just this guy and a single regular Tomb King, you're going to put pretty much any unit in this army on 2s to hit or 1s to hit, depending on what it is. Right?
Right.
Like, that is really good. Right on the rip. That's pretty good. This guy is also a hoss, by the by. Like, with the kit out you mentioned, he's, first of all, he's an 8 wound, 3-up save model. He's got 4 attacks with his good sword that are 3s, neg 2 rend, very important, and 3 damage, right? If you give him, now, in addition, he's got a 5-up Fear No Pain, right? Or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Right.
And he also has his little, like, incantation that's a prayer. He basically has a non-prayer prayer, right? Where you can, on a 2-up, he can pick some unit, right, and double their move characteristic and give them fly. So suddenly he can make it. He can do it to himself. So suddenly he's flying around the board at 20 inches. But he can also do it on snakes and other chariot units. And chariot units can, like, run and shoot. Lots of units in this army can run and shoot, run and charge, things like that. So, I mean, it's just unbelievable mobility granting ability. On top of all that, if he lands a charge, he goes to 6 attacks with that baller weapon, and that thing will cream units because he's buffing himself, right? With his command ability. He's not Desert Legion, but he is a Tomb King. And so he's on 2s with that sword anytime he uses his command ability, right? And you could have the other Tomb King pile into him or whatever, or the Royal Chariot guy pile into him. There's all sorts of options. Or Royal War Sphinx guy. So,
which I'm very sad that I do not own.
Yes. It's,
speaking of secondary market pain.
I'm sorry for that. I own 9 Sphinxes. So
Jesus Christ.
I have
You're
4,
rich, Vince.
I have 4 War Sphinxes, 3 Necker Sphinxes, and 2 Kings on Royal Chariot. So there you go. It's my favorite unit the game has ever produced. So there you go.
So I need to find out if you have a, what is it, a Huda or whatever from there. I need to, because I've been toying with getting one of the Forge World, the big underground worm snake looking thing, and making a Royal Tomb King on Royal Chariot out of that, because I thought that would fit the theme well.
Sure.
So, but
yeah, I mean, it's great. He charges. He's 6 attacks on 2s with his sword and 16 attacks on 3s and 4s out of the ponies.
Yeah,
this is bonkers. Like, this dude is a hoss. I had him go up against, like, Nagash and Glotkin and some Chaos Warriors and do significant damage before he had to Ring of Immortality himself away. Like, he lived at the end of the game. He was alive. And that is like 2,000 points fighting him.
Yeah. So the one thing I always forgot was that if the Tomb King curse, that when Cetra would die, the wound that somebody that takes him out suffers a D6 mortal wounds. And so that I always forgot that somehow.
Yeah. He's amazing and pretty
lost him.
Lost him. I don't know what to say.
So here, while we're talking about this right now, the ancient curse, I guess, if you have it, what is the Ring of Immortality says, like, when you die on a 3-up you?
The Ring of Immortality on a 3-up, when you die, you basically pop. I think Vince is back.
Hi, I'm back. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Fun computer troubles.
Right. So the Ring of Immortality, Mark said, on a 3-up, when you die, basically you don't die, you just
So the ancient curse doesn't proc with the Ring of Immortality when it procs, correct?
Correct, because he's never actually slain.
Okay. So just making sure. I was like, man, that sounds sweet.
He's like, no, how come you've never done that to me before? So I guess moving on from him, we all know he's awesome. And there's no reason to come back and make a Cetra model under Legends, in my opinion. This is fine. We all know who it is. We don't need it.
Yeah, I would be fine with him existing in, like, made to order. If they want to put this dude out as a made to order thing,
Yeah, 'cause he's
Right.
metal and or fine cast. He'd be easy to do.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. Great, fine. Put him out under made order. But I don't need him. I don't need new rules for like specific Cetra. This is Cetra. It's the same rules, except it got rid of the dumb Neil thing.
Right. That's what I was saying. We don't need a Cetra war scroll. This is fine. Come out and make the model. Let people get him.
Yeah, because the secondary market's insane. I mean, you look on eBay and they're $120-ish minimum for a Cetra. It's kind of nuts.
He is a pretty great model, to be
He's
fair.
a sweet model.
All right. So
all the Tomb King models are great.
Yeah.
I guess I'm gonna hop up to the.
Why don't we talk about the Tomb Queen since Vince thought.
I was gonna go up to the chariots because they basically synergize well with the Tomb Queen and the chariots, and then we'll go back to the Tomb Queen.
Sure.
So chariots again. These guys move 10 inches, 5 up save, 10 bravery. And the big thing that they have is essentially the regenerative capability. And this is really the power of the army, I think, Vince, you mentioned.
Completely agree. Yep.
Is that as long as you have a icon bearer, your banner model, then each of these, then you can return a unit, one slain model to this unit in your hero phase. And so, yeah, basically it's like, oh, I lost it. I took 5 wounds. I lost the chariot. My hero phase, bang. That entire 5 wound chariot comes back.
This is one of the best deals around right now. People, I don't get, this mystifies me. Okay, let's break this down. These are a battle line unit, right? Broad, not conditional, pure battle line.
Pure battle line, yeah.
Yeah. A regular battle line unit, you get 15 wounds for 140 points. That's Gorgrunta level value.
Right.
Okay? Now, one worse save, no doubt. Much higher bravery.
Oh, yeah.
Much higher.
Don't worry about them dying. I mean, you're not going to lose them to.
Right. Faster move, right? Because they're 10 inches versus 9 inches on the pigs. By the way, I'm comparing them to the pigs because everybody knows the pigs are one of the best units sort of around for kind of just stopping people up and being a little mobile kind of anvil. They always charge a minimum of 6. Right?
Right.
They can
other capability.
Yeah, they can run and shoot. They have a ranged attack that the pigs don't have. And they regenerate 1 or 2 chariots around, 2 if you've got a Tomb Herald, right? Like you mentioned your Tomb Herald. So you can restore 10 wounds automatically around 2 full models to this unit every round, every hero phase. These guys are bonkers. And when they charge, they go up, they double their attacks. So they go to like 4 and 8. What?
Right. Yeah. And they have some bows that they can shoot, which not great, but it helps.
Sure. And notably, like you said, like these guys are Desert Legion. Who were the super buffed dudes by the Cetra? Oh, that's right. It was Desert Legion. So these dudes suddenly become, on 3s and 3s and 4s and 4 or 3s and 4s.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, this was again, I'm limited by what I have, but basically, yeah, the chariots, I have 2 sets of chariots. That's what I own model wise. I started playing during 8th edition, and I guess I really loved the Tomb King look, but kind of the models the army wasn't that good, and so I started right around end times. When they did the whole Nagash story, I'm like, this is really cool army. I'm gonna build this, and I thought they might be going the way of I guess they kind of did a little bit where they might have like chaos and the Tomb Kings sort of work against Nagash.
Right.
And so I was hoping that'd be what happened since I had a lot of chaos. And so I started building the Tomb King army, and then they came out with, hey, Age of Sigmar, we got some good news and some bad news. The good news is your units are awesome. The bad
news? Yeah.
Yeah.
You ain't getting a book ever again. Welcome to the world of Compendium, but that's okay.
Yeah. So just kind of taking a step back to the Tomb Queen, and I'm kind of curious why you were ragging on her, but basically she's got a capability of and I guess it's just a lot of points for you're basically buying this unit for this command ability here, which is the Blessing of Accuracy, which is add 1 to hit rolls made by friendly Desert Legions units during your next shooting phase.
Yep. I'll tell you why I don't like this model. Okay. So let's compare her and the Tomb King right below her. Okay. Because this is going to give away the game. First of all, she's pretty much useless in melee. Like, yes, I understand the Venom Staff hits for a D6 damage and it's accurate-ish, but it has no rend at all. Okay. Right.
Which I think is kind of one of the things I found that was the weakness of the army I ran. I had no rend. It didn't have a lot of rend.
Right. You have to be very careful about your rend in this army, because you don't, unless you're like super snake heavy, then you can just mortal wound people into non-existence. But the Tomb King is 20 points cheaper. Okay. He's 100 versus the Tomb Queen's 120. The only thing the Tomb Queen does is she activates that ability, and all of your Desert Legion units gain +1 to hit in the shooting phase. Right. So, but what does that mean? Well, it means your skeleton archers, your chariot shooters, that's about it.
Your Shabti, unfortunately.
Right. Correct. Yeah, exactly. Because they're reanimates. Yeah. So basically those are the 2 units she buffs. The only time she's worth it is if you have like a 90 archer army. Okay. Because, and I should say, archers only become conditional battle line if she's the general, right? Which is also a non-starter, because I want the big boy as general, not
her.
Right. Whereas the Tomb King's ability, he's got an extra wound. He is a beater in melee, if you want him to be, right? Again, give him that Great Blade. Now all of a sudden you're swinging around some -2 rend, 3 damage attacks. He gets buffed by Cetra. He can buff himself or someone else. And he can give the same +1 to hit to a single unit, because the Tomb King's ability is My Will Be Done. You pick 1 Desert Legion unit, right? And you add 1 to hit, run, and charge rolls for the unit. It's not limited by phase. It's just period. Mm-hmm. So if you've only got like if you've got 1 big block of skeleton archers, save the 20 points, buy him a Tomb King, right? He can give the same 1 to hit, but can also make him run and charge faster. And if you're forced to fight in melee, they'll be 1 better in melee too.
And you could use that. Yeah. So like in my case, I had a list of with some skeletons or chariots or whatever. I could have the Tomb King say, okay, the archers are not my guy that are getting that. Now my skeletons. And if you run a big block of regular skeletons, they're going to be they're on 2 up, 2 up, I think.
Yep, exactly. They will be. Well, they'll be on 2 up, 3 up, I think. But so the point is that like the Tomb King. By the way, the Tomb King also has. They're both 4 up save, but the Tomb King has the Royal Shield, which lets him reroll all failed saves. Really good ability. That dude is bonkers better for 20 points cheaper. Like it's completely the wrong way around. She should be like 80 points. Like he's properly costed at 100. She should be 80.
Interesting.
Well, why not both? You know, like
why not both 80?
No, why not take both in an army, and then
you could, because then you could make your shooters even better. But because you run out of points, I'll tell you the answer. You run out of points so fast in this army.
Right.
Because your big boy you're starting with is like 460. If you want the other guy on the War Sphinx, he's like 440. Your snakes are expensive as all get out. Like you have to. This is an army that's very
prioritizing.
Expensive. Yeah, and if you're not careful, now your units are tough. A lot of them regenerate, but you know if you're not careful, you will put yourself in a bad position. You'll get choice pieces removed, and then you're screwed. Right.
Right. And I did find that was the case. The Tomb King on Chariot, Cetra, kind of removing him, it was kind of a linchpin, because then all of a sudden, the command ability from the Tomb Queen, or if you had a Tomb Queen command ability, I guess couldn't be used, right?
That's correct. All that goes away.
All that goes away.
The only unfortunate part about this version of this build is that he is the foundation this house of cards is resting on. And if someone's got enough heat that they can melt him off the board, I mean, he is only an 8 wound dude. He's tough as they come. Like, he can go 2 up, 5 up pretty easy. 2 up, 5 up, 6 up. Keep in mind, you'll be in generic death. So he also absorbs the generic death 6 up.
Right.
So, like,
within range of himself for a.
Right. He's always within range of himself. So, I mean, he can very easily be a 2 up, 5 up, 6 up. And that's pretty tough. But, like, sure, Nagash, if he gets a good turn of like being able to plow 8 spells into him, is probably going to melt him off the table.
Or Skaven Scryer.
Clan Skyer is a nightmare for this guy, certainly, because yes, again, if you let him get in range, you don't want that. That's a lot of like bad damage multiplication. Yeah. Sure.
Right. So that's a good point. I'm going to have to consider that or change that if I take my Tomb Kings again.
Did you not have the Tomb King originally?
I have a Tomb King.
No, did you not have it in the army?
I did not have a regular Tomb King in the army.
Gotcha.
But I just somehow said, oh, I'm going to take these archers, and this person makes the archers better and missed. So that. So the other linchpin in this army, I guess I said the linchpin was Cetra, and the Tomb Herald is a key to keeping Cetra alive.
Yep.
You mentioned also that he has this capability. He has 2 capabilities that he's there for. The first one is the Standard of the Undying Legion, which lets him plant his standard, and you can't move him, but immediately return 1 slain model to each friendly Desert Legion unit within 24 inches. I mean, that's a huge bubble. And as Vince mentioned, if you have your chariots down to 1, or your snakes down to 1 model, this guy plants his standard, bang, a model comes back, bang, another model comes back, because you take the icon bearer is the very last one that takes wounds.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
So I found that I was always, and probably wrongly so, I don't know, but basically maybe I should be taking 2 Tomb Heralds, because the other thing is that he would always step in front of the big, somebody would shoot a bunch of shots at the Cetra. I ended up playing KO against KO 2 times, and again, like Mark mentioned, his Skyer blowing him off the board, KO could just kind of line up and blow Cetra off the board with a bunch of their shots. So I'd have like the Tomb Herald jump in front and sort of take all those shots.
Oh yeah, like he's another layer. It effectively makes him like 2 up, 5 up, 6 up. Like it's as long as there's a Herald alive. And the problem is exactly what you said. The problem with the Herald is that he has 2 abilities that run counter to each other. Like if you put him on the steed, he can keep up with Cetra, right? But like he gets rid of that garbage 4-inch move, and there's no reason not to put him on a steed.
They don't cost anything.
Yeah, exactly. But again, this guy's not cheap. He's a fairly expensive dude in your army, and when you do that, like planting the banner prevents you from moving to return the models, right?
Right.
And Cetra wants to be very mobile, like rolling around, smashing into things, busting them apart, and keep going. So these 2 things run it. You need this dude to be within 3 inches of Cetra for this ability to work. But at the same time, you need this guy not to ever move, right? To actually get the use out of his standard. So it becomes a real challenge to make both of these things happen. And I think, yeah, you could take 2. But in all honesty, I think the way you play it is you go, look, I'm only going to use this guy for one purpose, like at the start of the game. Okay. And you say, what am I facing? And if I'm facing KO or somebody who can shoot me off, then the Herald never leaves Cetra's side and I ignore the standard. Okay?
Right.
Like, unless I happen to be in a situation where they get themselves stuck into combat and then he can plant it safely. Cool. Otherwise, I go, if I'm in a situation where I got mainly a melee force or something like that, I'm not going to get Cetra picked out, then keep the Herald back, let Cetra run around and keep the Herald separate from him in a position where he can just Plant the standard down, never move his feet, and always be returning models.
Yeah, because this is not some Ideneth Deepkin crap where it's wholly within. It's within 24 inches, and honestly, you can probably hit mostly everything. I mean, 24 inches is a huge amount when you can do the conga lining stuff.
Yeah, it's just not going to hit your deep striker people. So, kind of on the same page as the other hero, the Lich Priest. And I guess he used to have capability to summon people or maybe even heal people. But basically right now, and you're basically just taking him, again, he can be put on a skeletal steed, and there's no reason to not put him on a skeletal steed.
Yep.
Why would you not? But basically you're taking him for the Righteous Smiting spell. A casting value of 5 is pretty low or low-ish. And so a Desert Legions or Reanimate. So actually this will work on the Ushabti that you talked about.
Yeah, one of the few things that will, yep.
Right. And until your next hero phase, all models are imbued with magical power. And basically when you roll a 6 or more for the unit on a hit, you make one additional hit roll. And so what I was doing was basically the early turn one. Well, I guess we should take a step back. One problem I had was just because there's no battalions, just the pure number of drops this army had.
And yeah, so you're almost always going to lose the drop war. Yeah.
Right. And so if it was I was always going first or, well, second if it was somebody going to shoot me off the board.
Right. You were never given the choice. So you were always kind of forced to do the least advantageous to you thing. Right.
Right. So, but I did have like one game, and it was against Khorne, where I got the Lich Priest, got the Righteous Smiting off on the archers, and the archers then had Khalid's special ability, so there was a block of 30. We were rolling, 60 attacks at 4 up, and on a 6 you would roll another hit. And yeah, so that was it just ripped through a whole bunch of units.
Yeah, I mean, the relevant part here is it's not a hit roll of 6, it's a hit roll of 6+, right? So all of the hit bonuses we mentioned earlier, Tomb Queen, Tomb King, and etc., all make this trigger on a lower number.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So like let's just take it to the obvious simple place, the standard stock 2. You got a Tomb King and you got etc. Very achievable. And you've got a unit like, let's say, some snakes. And they roll in there with their attacks. On 4 ups to hit, they're making additional attacks.
Yeah.
Right? The math goes sideways so fast. It gets even more scary with things like skeletons, and stuff like that, where they can also buff that number in their own way. Yeah, it is a very potent spell, not to be underestimated.
Well, Vince, I totally didn't realize the plus on there. You were
just rolling the hard 6.
Yeah, I was only doing it on the hard 6, like you said. So, but that's so much better. Wow.
It's a really good spell. And, we should go to the snakes. We have snake danced around the snakes for a while.
Snake dance.
To the danger noodle.
Oh, try and find the snakes. The Necropolis Knights, I assume, are the ones we're going to talk about as opposed to the other ones.
Yeah, because these are the good ones. Sorry to other snakes, but these guys are really good. So the Necropolis Knights, their downside is they're expensive. You get 3 of them for 240 points. They're one of the more expensive 3, block sort of heavy cav units in the game. That being said, they're
still worth it, right?
completely worth it. Yeah. Again, there are 15 wounds for that price. You're moving 8. You got a 10 bravery. So again, you're never going to lose anybody to bravery. If these guys are in 3s, you'd have to really get raked across the coals to lose anybody even in 6s. Base 5 up save, but they do go to 4 up in the combat phase with their shields. Now it's only combat phase, but still, that's where they're going to want to tend to live. Again, minimum 6ers on the charge, which is fantastic. So you can never fail a 3-inch charge in this army. Right, because everybody charges min 6. You can never fail a 4 or 5-inch charge. You return a slain snake every round. And really the most important part about these guys is they all have rend, right? The whole model has rend, both the snakes and the dudes on top. Each snake makes 5 attacks. Your champ makes 6 because he's got an extra heavy spear. All good numbers like 3s and 3s and 4s and 3s. These guys are both Reanimate and Desert Legion. They get buffed by any and everything. And the important part here is your Necrovenom. Each time you make a wound roll of 6+ for a Necroserpent's Poison Fangs, that attack inflicts 1 mortal wound in addition to its normal damage. In addition, which is already a neg 1 D3 damage attack. So when Cetra buffs these dudes, like a 6er of snakes with Cetra and a Tomb King behind it is still a potent force to be reckoned with. It's expensive as all get out. That's basically 1,000 points right there, right? But what's going to happen is these dudes are going to roll in. They're going to be on 2s and 2s with the dudes on top, and they're going to be on 2s and 2s with the guys on the bottom, right? And the guys on the bottom, anytime you roll a wound roll of 5 or 6, you're going to trigger an extra mortal wound. You throw Righteous Smiting on there, and suddenly you're getting extra Poison Fang attacks on 4s and extra Spear attacks on 4s. It just goes, boo! It goes off the charts. Now that's a lot of your army focused into it, but it's potent.
Yeah. I actually had, and I don't remember what it was.
Were you doing the 6+ thing on this too? Like with the buff? Or were you just hard 6 in it?
I was hard 6 in this too, I'm sure. Because I'm an idiot.
Hey, that's what I thought too. So I'm glad now I know.
Oh, now I'll be able to win NashCon as opposed to
we're not the best AOS players. We just like it.
Hey, that's all right. No, it's no problem. I only know because I've been playing these dudes since 2004. So I've, not that they've had these rules the whole time, but they've always been one of my favorite armies. So
right. And so they, I actually had like this unit and this unit got blown off the map one time. I guess it was a double turn maybe. But yeah, somebody just basically blew the unit off the map before it got to regenerate. Always
a shame. It's what you got to watch out for. This unit, all of your stuff is very susceptible to the double turn because it relies on hero phase regeneration. So you've got to make sure if you have the top of 1 or if you have the top of 2, you need to make sure you're putting yourself in a position where you're not going to get wrecked if you get double turned. Like you should always be thinking about that. What happens if I get double turned, right? So you want to make sure you have your right chaff and stuff in place. And this army can chaff really, really, really well. Super duper stupid well can this army chaff and keep you safe. Not to keep directing this, but do you mind if we jump to Skeletal Horsemen? Who are, to me, one of the greatest units in this army. And if there's ever been an undervalued unit in the game, it is Skeletal Horsemen.
Right. And I've heard you say this before.
Okay. These guys are amazing. I know that nobody believes me, but I run these guys all the time. And I will tell you, they are the MVP in so many games. What am I getting? Okay. I'm getting five horsey boys for 100 points. They are battle line. So right away, not conditional battle line, just battle line. They have a 12-inch move. But they can run and charge. So you run all the time because they have no shooting weapon. So they have actually a 15.5-inch move. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting the 10 wounds. You get an extra attack out of the boss guy. Who cares? Whatever, doesn't matter. You get +1 to wound when you charge. So with their little spear, I guess that's cool. Again, min 6ers. But you return D3 slain models in the hero phase. These guys are so good. You just get little 5ers of them. They float around the edge. They are the fastest thing in your army. They are so fast. And they are just going to run in and like you save them. They're your turn 3, turn 4 win where they sweep in out of nowhere, right? And because they can go a minimum basically of 19 inches in a turn.
You can put them up. If you really need to get somewhere with Cetra, man, just make them 24 inches. I mean, they're getting there.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, they can, like, as I said, their min move is 19 inches. Like, that all in if you're able to charge something, right? So they can come out of nowhere. knock somebody off a point just by either bodies or killing the thing. They're not terrible. And unbelievably win you the game. They're a 5-up save in melee, which is fine enough. Like, okay, great. Who cares? It doesn't matter. And they have enough attacks. Again, they're Desert Legion. If they happen to wander in range of your other buffs, cool. But for 100 points and a battle line unit, these guys fill their role perfectly. They are skirmishing chaff. And that's how I use them. When I need to block off a charge because I'm about to get double turned, in sweeps the horseman, from like far away, and they'll just conga line, do.
And you run them sideways or not.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right around the thing I want to protect.
Yeah, they can cover a lot more ground that way.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Yeah, I did look at them, and I also looked at the archers, which basically they do have the skeletal archers, and I was kind of thinking that they may work with, I guess with the Tomb Queen, would have the same capability to return units. But like I said, I ran out of points.
Yeah, they're more expensive. They have one of the coolest abilities in the game, and that they can shoot in the move phase and move in the shoot phase, which is ridiculously cool. Like that is an awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's what it's been really
sweet.
The problem with them is they're a little too expensive for what they do, and their shots just aren't good enough. Right. And they're not battle line like the horsemen.
Right. So you would take the horsemen, like in my case, I was looking at I took the skeletons. I have the 2 chariots, but you would definitely kind of get rid of just the regular skeletal legion chaff unit there and put in the horsemen.
Yeah, if we're talking about like a tenor, sure. Like skeletons are only good if you've maxed them, basically, right? Like if you're gonna go skeletons, you go all in. If you're looking for like small units, yeah, horsemen are your way to go.
So yeah, I was unfortunately in the middle with the whole 20 skeletons, which is probably the minimum to get the extra bonus. So kind of hopping over to them.
Sure.
These are skeletons that are they're the same as I think they're the same as any undead skeleton.
Yep.
But they are desert legions.
Different shield than other skeletons.
Different shield. They got the shield that they can basically, if they don't run, they can basically add 1 to save rolls for the unit until its next movement phase. And that's actually, if you're already in combat, you get that, right?
Right.
I mean, so, if people are piling in or you're piling in, and you get that. And so, and the other big thing with these units is that just the size. If you, they add, if you have 20 or more models, you add 1 to the attacks. If you have 30 or more models, add 2 to the attacks. So like you mentioned, if you took a block of, I guess it was 40 the max on these guys. So
yeah.
Like a block of 40 of these guys, they're going to have 3 attacks each. And then you're going to have them at 4+. 4+ is essentially what they're going to be with their blade. And then you're going to be down to, Setra's going to be buffing them, and your Tomb King's going to be buffing them. So now you're 2+, 2+, or whatever, 2+, 3+.
Yeah, I always go for the spear, so you can actually get the reach, because these guys are on 25s, so they can reach over 2 of their friends. You can fight 3 deep effectively, right?
Right. I have spears too, but
and because they have a built-in +1 to hit if they've got a hero nearby, right? So like again, their own buff, Cetra, Tomb King, boom, 2s and 3s, rock and roll. And again, they will trigger the righteous smiting on a 3-up in that situation.
Wow.
So 40 of them is already making 90 attacks, or sorry, 120 attacks. I'm sorry, I was doing the math for 30. 40 of them is already making 120 attacks, and they're triggering extra attacks on a 3-up. It's a lot of extra attacks. It's 80 extra attacks statistically.
Right. And people are like, oh, how come you didn't get your games done in 2.5 hours?
Because I was rolling 200 attacks for my unit of skeletons.
Right.
And yes, there's no rend, but if something's not on like a 2-up rerolling ones, it doesn't matter. 200 attacks will get it done.
Right.
Yeah.
So, gosh, I'm going over this army going, wow, why did I not win? I wanted to get your thought on the Tomb Guard, Vince.
They are not good.
They're not good. Okay. Because I've seen people that have, I mean, just kind of their stats. The big problem, I guess, is the 1 wound, but they have the 2 attacks at 3 up, 4 up, and Ren -1. But what is it, like the Corn Bomb Army that they have? Corn Bloodletter or whatever. I mean, isn't this sort of the same thing?
No, because it only adds 1 to the damage characteristic. It doesn't trigger mortal wounds. Here's why they're not good. The problem with these guys is they don't serve an actual role in this army. They're the heavy infantry that you don't need. Like, your 40 skeletons are just cheaper and do the same thing. These guys are twice as expensive as skeletons. They're 5 for 80 as opposed to 10 for 80. And they are not tougher enough. Like, these guys die basically as easily as skeletons. Okay, more for all, basically for all intents and purposes. As well, they only restore D3 per round, as opposed to the skeletons who restore D6. Okay?
Right.
Yeah, they get more attacks, and yes, those numbers are better. But again, we already showed we can get skeletons to 2 up, 3 up. So, who cares? And we already know skeletons can make 3 attacks, which is actually more than I'm doing with the Tomb Blade. So, all I'm getting out of this, right, is the Neg 1 Rend and the chance to get an extra to have it go damage 2 on either a 6 up or 5 up, depending on the buff situation. That's not good enough to pay twice as many points, right? It's just not.
I didn't think so, but I also was wondering if it was something that I was missing.
A big thing to note too is you got a big thing to note too is the Legionnaires have the 2-inch range, and like you said, you can get 3 deep, or the Tomb Guard is the option for the 1-inch.
Right. Absolutely.
All right. So next, I wanted to go to Vince's favorite units.
Yeah, the Sphinxy. This is the good Sphinx because he's Desert Legion, because he's got skeletons on top of him. So he is actually decent because he can get buffed by the Tomb King, by the by etc. At 280, it's not terrible. He has, I mean, he's fine. 12 wounds on a 4-up save. His real problem is speed. He is slow as all get out. He has the half damage characteristic thing. So, like, the updated text, just like the Stonehorn and everybody else. He's not as tough as he once was, but he's still pretty tough. He's got a decent number of attacks that have a decent amount of rend. The hard part with this guy, like, I love this dude to death. He's a beautiful model on the table. It's just hard to look at him and go, yeah, this guy's worth almost a whole 40 pack of skeletons. Like, if you're going to put 40 skeletons is 320. This guy's 280. Who does more damage?
Right.
Spoiler alert, it's the 40 skeletons. Like, they blow this guy out of the water, right? So he's
40 wounds. And
right. Yeah. And they regenerate faster and all that. Him losing his regenerative abilities really hurt him.
Right.
I think he's at best okay. You know, the Thunder Crush thing is like okay. It's sad. But that's okay. The War Sphinx in his history, he's had ups and downs. So I would say right now he's on kind of a downswing, but he's still fun. It's not a bad thing to throw in, but don't expect him to do amazing things.
Yeah, the Sphinxes really took the hit, and I guess the Necro Sphinx, which I'm going to hop to, I guess took the biggest hit because they got sort of the double whammy where they got their ability to heal them taken away, and they got their points raised to what, 440 or something. It kind of
400, I think.
400. It makes it almost where it was a must take before. Now it's an almost you never take it. In my opinion, it's just too much.
Yeah, they're 440 now, and they're so expensive. I mean, yes, they still have their like head choppy thing where they can do 10 mortal wounds, which is super cool.
Monster only,
so. Right? Sure, but that's Archaon can suck on 10 mortals. He's got the monster work keyword. The
can't take out Marathi.
Well,
kills.
Yeah, but you know, like you're not gonna kill an Eidolon with this guy, but that's a shame. But I mean, you know, like you look at this guy compared to the Eidolon of the Sea for like 440, and you're like, what are we doing here? What are we even talking about? Right? Like that's not even the same universe.
Right.
Yeah, he's overcosted now, and it's a shame, but he's just not good.
You might see with go on.
Yeah, well, he was really good before, but now with the cost and everything, and the ability and before you basically had a spell where you could heal him, and he was taking half damage, and every round you could heal him. He'd be a huge tar pit, just like a lot of your army. But now, not. Unfortunately, this is the Sphinx that I have that I built.
Yeah, that's okay. He can be the other guy too. Oh, we lost him. He's
Dang. Gone forever. His computer sucks, so.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but I think that, just the Necrosphinx just in comparison to the Eidolon is like not even close. But you think maybe with General's Handbook they'll go back to revising some of these points?
I mean, I don't know that they've left off. Hey, welcome back. I don't know that they've said they'll never update the compendium points. I mean, they may. Who knows? Honestly, I don't really care if they do. That is to say, like, if they do, cool. If they don't, also fine. You know what I mean? Like, it's good enough. I have a lot of fun playing this army. Is it top tier?
No.
Of course not. Let's not, despite the fun combos here, it is a fun, middling level, perfectly competitive army you can make some good lists with, which is all I ever ask for. Yeah, I mean, its weaknesses are obvious. It has no real true anvils.
We lost them.
Wow, what's going on? All right, so Vince was saying it has no real anvils. He's back. Now
I'm dropping. It's a middling competitive army. It's got no super tough dudes, right? It's got no hard anvils. It's got decent mobility, but not great. And it doesn't have enough mortal wound capability. Like it has problems cracking enemy nuts.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I guess you had mentioned the Screaming Skull catapult, so I kind of jumped to that. The first year of Age of Sigmar, when I was looking at tournament lists, you would see this guy in all of them. And basically he would have, if they were within with a Necrotet unit, which is basically a unit just there to buff somebody, they would get double shots. And so this thing would be doing 2 attacks, and they'd be doing the fear bombs and everything, but with the screaming ammunition. But with the new book, they got rid of the ability to reanimate the crew.
Right.
And so whereas before, if your crew died, you could cast a spell and get them back, and the catapult's back in action. Now you just kill the crew, and they're, as you can see here, worthless. 6-up save. You just kill the crew, and the thing sits there. And they raise the points too, I believe. So it went from a centerpiece unit to in a lot of death armies, because the shooting and stuff, to kind of a big loser. You would never put it on the table.
Yeah. It just doesn't do enough. That's the problem. Like, yeah, it can be a 4 damage hit, but I mean, you got to build so much around it. You are correct on the price. It's just too expensive for what you get out of it. I mean, again, this thing's 160. It's almost as expensive as like a Hellstorm rocket battery, which there's not even a comparison there. So, yeah.
Right.
It's cheaper than a gun hauler, so take that, KO. Your gun hauler still sucks.
I've seen people mess with the Bone Giant. I don't know. It just seems like I think the Bone Giant and maybe the Scorpion kind of suffer the same thing. It's everything in one model that's kind of got some Ren, but not a lot of attacks.
Yeah, he's no good. Again, like, he's too much points for what he does. I only have a few minutes left, but can we talk about one more unit I really wanted to touch on?
Sure. These guys, Ushabti? No?
The Ushabti are good. We kind of hit on them already. They're good as like little independent dudes. Their blades are still great. They are a decent rend. And against enemy chaff type stuff, with it doesn't have rend, they are hard as a coffin nail. The problem is stuff with rend will just blow through them. Right.
Right. I thought it might be good against the Deepkin.
Maybe. Yeah, there's a lot. That army, I mean, the problem is the Namarti Thralls are going to cleave through these dudes, like, really bad. Like these are the perfect enemy for the thralls because the thralls have rend and they have 4 wounds. So the thralls become 2 damage attacks against these guys. I mean, they would harvest if you put these guys in the thralls, they will harvest these Ushabti like wheat.
Okay, what did you want to talk about?
The most utilitous unit in the army, the secret gem, even more so than the other secret gems I've talked about.
Carrion.
You got it. That is exactly right. Carrion. There is maybe the best unit in this army for winning out of nowhere. I don't know where they are in this crazy long PDF. Somewhere.
They're almost at the very bottom.
Okay. So Carrion, you mentioned your sepulchral stalkers or whatever.
Stalkers.
However you say them. You mentioned them like popping up and doing some stuff for you, late game, right?
Right.
Carrion are 3 for 80 points. Okay. You get 9 wounds on these bad boys. They fly 12 inches. They have a bunch of attacks each. Who cares? All right. Like, neat that they have a bunch of attacks. What's relevant about them is circling high above. When first set up, units of Carrion are assumed to be flying high above the battlefield. As long as they remain high in the sky, they cannot be charged, attacked, or targeted by spells or affected by abilities by either side. They also cannot make any attacks themselves as they are so far above their foes. Other units ignore the Carrion as they move. They may move underneath them. So you put them down on the table, right? They're there, but they're untargetable.
Right.
And the first time this unit declares a charge, you can roll 3 dice rather than 2. So basically you get to explode them out in the charge phase, right? And basically that's how you bring them down from flying high. And then the circling high above no longer applies. They can do this ridiculous long charge, right? And because they can roll 3 dice and charge somebody with an 18. So they have like the Arakai ability, right? The Morghast Arakai ability.
And unlike the guys that pop up, if they do that, they're moving to a point that is a victory point or
Yeah, these guys can be anywhere. You can just leave them on a point.
Yeah.
Right? And have them come down. Like, unlike everything else that pops up in the universe, they don't have to come up 9 away. They can just literally sit there on the board as an invulnerable unit on a point. Now, they can't claim it because they can't interact with it, but they can just sit there and, like, when they need to, be like, scraw, and come in and whammo, right? They're crazy late game utility for nothing. These guys are a pittance. They're one of the best deals in the army. Again, 80 points for 9 wounds and 3 of these dudes. They're silly.
So so basically, instead of the stalkers, these guys sort of fill the same role.
Yeah.
Late game threat.
Yep, but they can just pop up. The difference is they don't surprise as much because your opponent's always going to know where they are because you do have to place them, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, they're so very mobile when they come down, and they're so invulnerable when they're up. It's pretty great. Right. Your opponent can zone you out with things like stalkers and tomb scorpions, right? They can zone you out so you can't drop within 9 inches. They cannot zone out Carrion. It is impossible.
Right. They can't bubble wrap away from them.
Right.
So I had one more question for you, if we hopefully have time.
Sure.
And maybe it's a quick answer, probably. Is there anything in death that is worth allying into this army? Because of lack of keywords, the answer is maybe no, or maybe there is something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough. Death itself doesn't really have much in the way of big anvils. The answer is potentially the Morghasts that I mentioned earlier, like the Morghast or Arachidai or whatever. The ones with the halberds. I don't remember which ones they are. They are also an interesting.
Oh, we lost Vince again. Or maybe we've lost me.
No, he is. It says he's in the call, but he's not.
Right.
Talking. Huh.
So hopefully we'll know. He's maybe back. He's back and he's gone.
We have 2 Vinces.
We have 2 Vinces.
I know. You have 2 Vinces now. Sorry. I apologize that my internet is the worst in history today. But yeah, the Morghast Arakai, I think, are the one you can pull in. They're quite tough. Yeah, they're not going to synergize, but they tend to be pretty good independently on their own. They can have big rend. They can crack nuts. They have high mobility. So I think the Morghast are the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If I was going to pull anything in, a couple Morghast can do a lot of work.
Interesting.
I'll have to take a look at those then.
Now my thing.
You just got rid of your screen. Doesn't really matter.
It doesn't show my camera. All right. Well, I have my dice flowing.
There you go.
Screen one. No. Oh, the infinite screen. Excellent. I'll just put this guy back up.
There you go.
So that's basically it. I know you're out of time, Vince. Thanks so much for joining. I guess everybody, Warhammer Weekly, I hope you know about that show. It's great. It's been one of my favorites. Always looking forward to hearing you and Tom break down the armies and tell me where I'm playing wrong. I don't know if we told you this on our way up to Adepticon. We just streamed your show, listening to some of the older ones about some of the different.
And on the way home.
And on the way home. Oh, yeah. We got to watch while we were in the car. We got to watch you guys in the car.
Nice.
And then my other son called and said, "What the hell did you do to our data this month?" So, so what, NashCon's in less than a month. I don't know how I'm going to get a Chaos Army together, but based on what you've told me here today, I'll probably take the Tomb Kings and tweak it out and go from there.
I look forward to seeing it there, sir.
All right.
I appreciate it very much. Thank you for having me on, and we'll have to get you on Warhammer Weekly sometime, both of you.
Well, thanks so much. We will.
Thanks, Vince. We really appreciate it.
Appreciate it, and we'll see you next week, and keep on hobbying.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.